Chapter 27 The Broken Robot. The sheriffs found their robot powered off, lying in a ditch by the road. Her left leg was crumpled beneath her torso. Her right arm was twisted around a tree trunk, and her whole body was covered in nail scraps and dents. Together, the family heaved Roz into the bed of the pickup truck, where Oscar was waiting. The dog sniffed her broken body while the sheriffs climbed in beside him. Then Rambler turned around. The road was littered with debris from the storm, and the truck had to drive slowly. As they bounced along, Jed pressed the button on the back of Roz's head. She powered up, and her garbled voice automatically said, "Hello, I am Rosman, Unit 7134, but you may call me Roz." Oscar licked the poor robot's face, and Jed leaned in close. "Roz, can you hear me? Are you okay?" "Hello, Jed. I am broken lips and minor damage to my computer brain. My systems are now repairing themselves. Please stand by." The robot's glowing eyes closed as her recovery program did its job, and before long, Roz sounded like her old self. "My computer brain is now fully functional." Jed wrapped his arm around the robot and sobbed. "I'm sorry, Roz. It's my fault the tornado got you. Please don't be mad." But now Jaya was crying too. She pulled her brother and her dog and her robot into a big hug. Mr. Sharif wasn't much a hugger, but she reached over and laid his hand on Roz's shoulder. They stayed like that for some time, quietly holding one another. The shock of the tornado was fresh, and it felt good to be together. "Mr. Sharif, I apologize for leaving the farm without your permission," said the robot. The man smiled. "No need to apologize, Roz. I'm just glad you're alive." "How are the cows?" said Roz. "The farm is a mess, but the cows were fine," said Mr. Sharif. "We'll take you to the repair shop right now, and you'll be with the herd again soon." Chapter 28 The Shop. It was a small, sleepy farm town. A few trucks glided down the streets. A few humans sat on porches. A few stores lined the main square. A Rambler parked in front of the bright white building. Then Mr. Sharif left the children with Roz, and he limped inside. "Welcome to the Touch Dab shop," said a woman in a white suit. "My name is Nadine. How can I help you?" Mr. Sharif was distracted by all the robots on display in the shop. They came in a dazzling variety of designs and sizes and colors. Standing still, eyes glowing, they calmly waited for someone to put them to work. When the man spotted a Rosm unit, he suddenly remembered why he was there. "I'm the owner of Hilltop Farm," he said, "and we were just hit by a tornado." "I heard the siren," said Nadim. "Nadine, is everyone okay?" "My family's okay, but I've got a Rosm unit outside who's in bad shape." The woman called over her shoulder, "Patch, bring the Rosm repair kit." The robot marched into the room carrying a large case. He looked similar to a Rosm robot, but the but he was shorter and wider. The word patch was lightly etched to his torso. Mr. Sharif let Nadine and Patch out to the truck, where the children were chatting with their robotic friend. Patch quite quickly scanned Roz's broken body and announced the cost of the repairs. The man stroked his chin, mulling over his option, until the children blurted out, "Just fixed her." Mr. Sharif nodded. The patch sprang into action. With smooth, precise movements, the robot gently placed Roz on the ground. Then he grasped her broken arm and her broken leg and twisted. There was a thwipped sound as each limb popped loose. Then he took new limbs from the case and popped them into place. In a matter of seconds, Roz was whole and back on her feet. "Robots never cease to amaze me," said Mr. Sharif, admiring Roz's shiny new lips. "The makers really outdid themselves with these resin units," said Nadine. "However, you have our most basic unit. Would you like us to upgrade her software, or adjust her settings, or polish out these scratches?" "Will that cost extra?" Nadine smiled. "I'm afraid so. This basic unit is fine," said Mr. Sharif, "but I need to order a work crew. Could you send one over to fix up my farm?" Not a problem," said Nadine. "I'll send a crew over immediately." Chapter 29: The Aftermath. Hilltop Farm was hardly recognizable. Buildings were flattened. Equipment was missing. Debris was everywhere. The farm had no electricity, and the computer system was down. As Roz picked her way through the rubble, she realized she was off the grid, and it would be hours after Mr. Sharif could track her electronic signal again. Was this the moment for her escape? No, Roz couldn't leave the Sharifs. Not like this. Instead, she did what she could to help. The torso had left behind the winding trail of the destruction. Thankfully, it hadn't destroyed everything. The barn was leaning to one side, but it was still standing. Roz forced open the door and found the cows nervously bunched together in a corner. "You are all safe now," said Roz in her calmest voice. "How is everyone feeling?" The robot was answered by a chorus of moos. "How did you think we feel? I'm a nervous wreck. My whole life flashed before my eyes." The robot raised her hands to quiet the crowd. "I am afraid a tornado destroyed much of the farm, including the milking parlor." The cows gasped. "But my udders are about to burst," cried Tess. Would you like me to milk you the old-fashioned way?" said Roz. One look at the robot's clampy, mechanical hands, and Tess shook her head. "No thanks," she said. "I can wait." "An emergency crew is on its way," Roz explained, "but we cannot be in here while they work. Please follow me." Roz carefully led the herd outside, through the wreckage, and down to the pasture. Some of the fences were missing, and the herding machine was broken. But the cows promised Don't wander off, and they began grazing on the wind-blown grass. Three massive trucks rumbled up to the driveway. Three massive trucks rumbled up the driveway. Doors swung open, and a crew of robot workers climbed out. The leader robot checked in with Ross as the others began unloading supplies from the trucks. Then the crew got down to business. Power tools buzzing. Debris was cleared. Fences were mended. Holes were dug. Machines were repaired or replaced. Beams and walls and roofs went up. Equipment and pipes and wires were installed. Clearly, those robots were designed to work as a team. The sheriffs wandered out back to stood with Ross. They watched as their farm was rebuilt before their very eyes. Several crew members marched over to the house, fixed a hole in the roof, and replaced the shattered windows. Finally, robot and tools were loaded into the trucks, and the robots fell in line. "Are you satisfied with our work?" said the crew leader. "I am satisfied," said Ross. At those words, the robots climbed back into their trucks and drove away. Hours after it had been devastated by a tornado, Hilltop Farm was better than ever. Chapter 30. The Gift. The children walked into the machine shed, past rows of Park Farm machines, and found Ross turning up the milk truck. "We got you a gift," said Jed, smiling. The Ross felt something like surprise when the boy handed her a box wrapped in silver pepper with a big red bow on top. "Can you guess what it is?" said Jaya. Ross started guessing. "A bucket? A rock? A hammer? A turtle? A can of—" Okay, you can stop guessing," said Jaya. "Don't forget to read the card," said Jed. Nestled under the bowl was a little card. Ross opened it and read the following words. They were written in Jed's messy handwriting. "Dear Ross, thank you for taking such good care of our farm and our family. We spent all our savings on this gift, so you'd better like it. Loved, Jaya and Jed. P.S. Please tell us more stories about the robot on the island as soon as possible." "Thank you for that nice card," said Ross, although the handwriting could use some improvement. Jed rolled his eyes and said, "Open your gift." The robot untied the bow and tore off the pepper and lifted the lid off from the box. Inside was a tool belt. It was made of dark leather and had a wide strap and different size pockets for holding different kinds of tools. "We thought this might make your work a little easier," said Jaya. "It designs specifically for Rosen robots," said Jed, "so it should fit perfectly." The children helped Ross put on her new tool belt, rather than going around the robot's waist like a normal belt. It went diagonally around her torso. Jed looped in over Ross's left shoulder and down around her right hip. Jaya lanced the strap through the buckle and tightened it until the tool belt was snug and secured across her chest. "Do you like it?" said Jaya. "I like it very much," said Ross. "Thank you for this lovely gift." The children smiled and hugged the robot. They really seemed to care about her. Ross wondered if they cared about to help her escape from the farm. One of these days, she could have to risk everything to tell them the truth. For now, however, he did the next best thing. She led Jaya and Jed out to the oak tree and told them another story about the robot on the island. Chapter 31. The Campfire. Wood smoke billowed up from the backyard and drifted across the farm. Ross was building a campfire for the sheriffs. In her old life, the robot made fire by cracking special stones together until she got a spark. In her new life, she used a lighter. The family sat around the ripping flames and gazed up at the stars. The dog stretched out on the warm ground. The robot was standing nearby, but her thoughts were far away. Her computer brain was scrolling back through memories of campfires and of stargazing with Bible. Fluffy white marshmallows were scattered onto the end of sticks, and then roasted above the flames. The children laughed as their marshmallows caught fire. They liked them charred on the outside and gooey on the inside. Their feather preferred his evenly browned when the sheriffs weren't stumping their mouths. They were chattering happily. "That's the space station," said Jaya, pointing to the tiny dot that was slowly moving through the sky. "I can't believe people live there." "Animals live there too," said Jed. "The station has a farm. We should bring our cows up and show those space farmers how it's done." "I think our cows are perfectly content right here on Earth," said Mr. Sharif, "and so am I." Once the marshmallows were gone, Jaya and Jed snuggled up with Oscar, stared into the flames, and asked their father about the old days. But the children were just too cozy to stay awake for long, so Mr. Sharif spoke to Ross instead. "We made campfires all the time when I was a boy." The man poked the coals with his marshmallow stick, and glowing embers floated into the fire. The whole family would sit around like this, telling stories. We had a nice life here. But when my brother and sister moved to the city, my parents got old, and everyone expected me to take over the farm. I couldn't run this place by myself," he went on, "so I hired Jamila. I did the farm work, and she managed the business. We made a good team, and then we fell in love. When Jamila was pregnant with Jed, we bought a few automations to help out. Then Jaya showed up, and we bought a few more. If I'd known one of those machines could be the death of her." The farmer's voice trailed off. Ross wanted to know more about Jamila, and about Mr. Sharif, and about the rest of his family, but a normal robot wouldn't ask personal questions, so she kept her questions to herself and dropped another log on the fire. Chapter 32. The Old Barn. Long ago, Hilltop Farm was a very different place. The original farmers grew vegetable gardens and fruit orchards, and they raised chickens and sheep and goats. The farm had changed a lot since then, but there were still signs of its past. Low stone walls lined some of the fields. A rusty tractor sat in the weeds, and hidden within a densely wooded grove was an old barn. The barn hadn't been used in generations. Over the years, trees had quietly grew up around it, and moss had spread across its roof. But the barn was still strong and solid, and Ross wanted to take a look inside. The big barn's door screeched along its rail. "Hello," said the robot, peered into the darkness. "Is anyone here?" A mouse squeaked and scurried out of sight, and then Roz had the barn to herself. She stepped through the doorway and switched on her headlights. The vast interior was crisscrossed with thick wooden beams. Stairways and ramps led up to lofts and platforms. Lanterns hung from hooks on the walls. Old-fashioned farm equipment lay there and there. The barn still had the faint barn still had a faint smell of farm animals, even though none had lived there in ages. A large trunk sat on the work table, covered in dust. Ross carefully opened the lid and examined its contents. A collection of farming magazines, a pair of leather gloves, a pencil nub, and then she noticed a small journal. The name Curious Sharif was elegantly scrawled across its cover. The pages were filled with his handwriting notes and hand-down diagrams about raising livestock and growing crops and building barns, about working the land with the help of strong animals and simple machines. Curious Sharif had also jotted down his thoughts about the long history of farming. He believed that the modern world owed its entire existence to ancient farms. When early humans first started growing their food, those farms were small and primitive, but they supported villages, which became towns, which became cities. The Britons were so wise and insightful that Ross read the journal from cover to cover. By the end, she almost felt as if she knew Curious Sharif. Whoever he was, the journal was a treasure. And she tucked it into a pocket of her tool belt for safekeeping.